Good morning, Eco TV viewers and listeners. This is Larry Sise here with my colleague Lamin Mane. This Thursday, 10th of April, 2025. Today's show is going to deal with 4 particular issues. These are issues that have been trending in social media and in some other platforms in the last couple of weeks. The first topic is the mega bank issue. We want to bring more clarity to the mega bank issue from our perspective. The second topic is the $75 million currency swap between the central bank and the African Export-Import Bank on behalf of the NRA. The third one is the $3 million payment request for the president's mother's medical treatment. The fourth one is the US $100 million payment to private sector individuals to source basic commodities. Lamin is the one who's been dealing with these issues of late. So I'm going to give him ample time to respond to some of the things that have been said out there, particularly in response to the Minister of Finance and the Governor of the Central Bank. We want clarity, and clarity cannot be had when we have a government that is saying 2 different things or 3 different things on the same issue. So Lamin.
Thank you very much, Larry, and good morning, good evening to all our viewers and listeners out there. It's a pleasure coming back to Eco TV International to discuss these issues with you. We unfortunately find ourselves in a situation where we have to do a back and forth on some of these issues, which really is not necessary, because we thought we were dealing with professionals, technical people who know their subject matter, who would not try to spin falsehoods to this country. Really, it's unfortunate because the Minister of Finance, I wrote that one off. He was supposed to be a technical guy, but he has unfortunately turned out to be another spin doctor, so I'm not going to waste my time much more on that person. My disappointment was with the governor of the central bank. I knew this gentleman from way back, and I have a lot of esteem for him, a technician. And looking at him twisting himself into pretzels just to please a political leadership, I found that unfortunate. Because the governor doesn't need to do that. You know what is the truth. You know what is the reality. Don't try to spin it. I mean, the mega bank issue, we can go around in circles and try to throw technical issues at the public. One thing I do is when I talk to the Gambians about these issues, I avoid as much as possible. We are all technical people, and it's easier to talk with technical language and the technical jargon because that's what we used to. That's what we use in our daily working lives, etc. But not everybody's a technician. And I keep saying to people, if a technical guy comes to you and throws a lot of technical terms at you and say, oh no, it's difficult, you can't understand, etc., he or she doesn't understand his subject matter. Because you are the technical guy. You're supposed to break it down for the layman to understand what you're talking about. So don't try to bamboozle them by bringing in technical terms. Give them layman terms. Break it down to layman level, so that the Gambian can understand what you're talking about. That's what I try to do all the time, and they come into technical terms trying to, throw off the Gambian listeners or viewers. It's not going to happen. I'm going to break it down again. The governor went on there and said, oh no, we don't buy banks, we just seize them. Come on. You know better than that. When these banks start failing, in the first place, the central bank has a banking supervision department. They are supposed to do the banking supervision to prevent those banks from failing. But sometimes that happens, because the banks also can be very sneaky. They do things and they fail. When the banks fail, the central bank doesn't seize them. Maybe he should talk to his legal people about the term seizure. You don't seize them, you don't own them. So you take them over, you take the management over. Why? Because there are depositors who put their money into those accounts in those banks. So if you let the bank fail, those depositors and other clients lose their money. So you don't let it fail. That's when the central bank has an obligation to come in and take over the management and running of those banks to stop them from failing. Sometimes it's too late. The banks have just gone under. And then when you take it over, you're supposed to finance them and recapitalize them. That is equivalent to buying them over, because you take over their management to be able to make them liquid again, to make them solvent, so that they can continue operating as a bank, and the depositors who trusted them and put their money in there don't lose their money. That's the reason why you take over those banks. You don't seize them. If you seize them, you own them, you do what you want with them. You cannot do that legally. So when you take over those banks, you're supposed to sanitize the bad debt. Those banks have a lot of bad debts in there, and which are allowed to happen, and that's why they fail. I don't go into those technical details not to bore our listeners and viewers. And there are some things we don't need to say, because as I keep saying, if we say all that is happening in this country, we might end up fighting each other, and that's not what we want. What we want is to give the Gambians a synopsis of what's happening there. Mega Bank, that was Keystone Bank before, right? Keystone Bank was allowed to fail. And you know why? Partly because there was an Italian company here that was working with Yahya Jammeh to build some roads. The Italian entrepreneur wanted to buy some equipment and had a loan from Keystone Bank to finance that road construction. And there were other major shareholders, including some local Gambians, but we didn't go into those details, who took large amounts of loans and who were not paying back those loans. So when Keystone got into trouble, was when that Italian guy got into trouble with Yahya Jammeh. Yahya Jammeh went to seize the equipment he bought, and the Italian guy fled the country, leaving a huge bank with Keystone, a huge loan. The equipment that Yahya Jammeh seized was just in a couple of $100 million, and these guys had taken a huge loan, over $1 billion, with Keystone Bank. So he left Keystone with a huge deficit, a huge bad debt. That added to the other Gambians who took huge loans, who were not servicing their loans. The bank started going under. So it had to be salvaged. At that point, they applied to have the bank taken over, and it was accepted. And they took over the bank. So when you take over a bank that is already in difficulty like that, that's no longer solvent, when you take it, you strip it of all the bad debt. You put it in an account, and you try to sanitize the bank. But to do that, you have to inject more capital into the bank. That's why you take it over, and that's virtually buying it. So when they took it over, they moved all the bad debt into an account which was called CAMCO, that's Keystone Assets Management Company, right? So now, Mr. Governor, I'm going to give you all those details in case you don't know them, but I guess you know. The assets were moved into CAMCO to be able to manage the bank and get it on its feet again. CAMCO was operating as an assets recovery company. During that time, Ministry of Finance, to be able to get the bank off its feet again and recapitalize so that the investors and the people who are saving with them don't lose their money, Ministry of Finance put in $600 million. And Central Bank came in too and put another $300 million, sorry, not dollars. And none of them have denied those points. They're just trying to spin the whole thing, say, oh, no, it's not a sale, it's a takeover. You put in $900 million from taxpayer money. 600 million from Ministry of Finance and 300 million from the Central Bank. And you took over the management. CAMCO was organizing the debt collection for the bad debts that had been left over for the bank. But as you see, at that time, we already had AMRC here, Assets Management Recovery Company, that Yahya Jammeh set up after the coup d'etat. So why do you duplicate those functions, right? So it was decided that the best thing was to move CAMCO's activities to AMRC. And these were done before the current governor came. So he's taking credit for something he didn't do. This was done before he came. So AMRC took over the assets recovery of Keystone Bank, and Keystone was recapitalized and put back on the market as Mega Bank. This is what happened. So spinning the truth wouldn't do. We know what happened. And they came to tell us, oh, when we came, actually, Mega Bank, it was in difficulty, so we had to restructure it. No, that's not true. Mega Bank was doing extremely well. It was turned around by staff from the central bank. Staff were appointed from the central bank who were very much familiar with these operations, and they moved them to Mega Bank to run Mega Bank. So give them credit for what they achieved. Those staff achieved a lot for the bank and for the country. They moved to Mega Bank and turned it around. And one other thing we must remember, in the 2008-2009 financial crisis, when banks were hit that hard, most of the countries went through stress tests for the banks. To make sure that the banks can survive that kind of shocks again, those kinds of shocks rather. Mega Bank was doing extremely well. The staff from Central Bank who were moved to this Mega Bank were doing an extremely good job, and they turned Mega Bank around. So give them credit for what it is due. But another important thing you must remember is that Mega Bank, or Keystone at the time, crashed simply because of poor management and poor supervision. That's why it failed. This is the bank that actually took over from, for people who are a bit older, you remember BICI?
Yep, they took over from BICI.
And BICI became BIC. This is the bank that became Keystone. So that BICI and BIC, its successor, and then Keystone, have huge assets in this country. Landed properties. Their headquarters is at the junction of Wellington Street, and I think it's Clarkson or Picton, I can't remember, just almost opposite, adjacent to Customs. They have this huge mega building there, which in itself will be valued, if it's valued today, will be a couple of millions of dollars.
And Mega Bank is still there.
They still own that property.
Branch, yeah.
They still own that property. And they have landed property in Bakau. Just when you come from Standard newspaper and you hit the junction, you turn towards Cape Point, it's on the left there, overlooking the sea, huge property again, millions of dollars worth. They have another property here in Serekunda. So they have all of these landed properties. And they have two big villas in Pufut Heights. One of them was allocated to the managing director as a residence. So they have all of those landed properties, which are millions of dollars already, just the landed property. Not to talk about the business itself, the goodwill, the customers, etc. And this was a bank with a huge customer base. So potentially solvent. And the new management of Mega Bank turned Mega Bank around, and Mega Bank was functioning. And for whatever reason, they removed that management and put in a new management. So we know all of these details. We don't go in there because we want to embarrass anybody, but if you want to spin the truth, we will come and say it the way it is. So that's what happened with Mega Bank. And Mega Bank was solvent again. So it was decided before the current governor came in, the preceding management of the central bank tried to sell Mega Bank because they are regulators. So they shouldn't be involved in running the bank for too long. It was just to get it back on track, back on its feet, and then move out and sell it over. Make a good profit for the country. They are saying we're not here to make profit. Yes, you are here to make profit. You are a bank. The central bank, but they're still a bank. You make profit for this country, right? So the new management was removed after there was a change of central bank. But before the change, some people put in offers to buy Mega Bank. A few of them were turned down. The one that eventually was selected, I believe it's of some German origin or something like that, I'm not too sure. They put in a bid. At the time, the bid was about $1.2, $1.3 billion. And at the time, the dollar was 500 to the dollar.
500 Gambian dollars is
Yeah.
$12.
Okay? So, at the time, that bid at the time, sorry, 50, not 500.
$50
$50 is to the dollar, not 500, sorry. At the time, that bid was about $25 to $30 million. That was what was offered. And I think this was 2012. No, sorry, not 2012, 2018, 19, around that time. They made a bid for that bank, and they offered to buy it for about almost $25 to $30 million equivalent. 1.2 to 1.5 million Gambian dollars. The transaction went through, and the governor of the central bank at the time and the management of the central bank at the time made some due diligence to ensure that this was the company that could buy it, and there is no criminal elements behind the bank, the new management that was trying to buy the bank. So they did that due diligence. When they finished that, it was agreed that the company that was going to buy it, going to buy a mega bank, was supposed to pay through the Federal Reserve Bank in the US.
Yes, yeah, in New York.
So when you pay to the Federal Reserve Bank, there is another level of due diligence. You will not pay, drag money into the Federal Reserve. You don't pay money from terrorism sources, etc. Or loan that money. You cannot pay it to the Federal Reserve because they will pick it up. So there was another layer of due diligence that was put in place. So the company that was supposed to buy Mega Bank put in the money, but they didn't go through with the whole transaction. They didn't pay the exact amount. So the operation eventually was cancelled. The new management of central bank comes in, and they took over. But you have actually one step back a bit. Before the new management came in, everybody who assessed Mega Bank said that if you sell it, you have to have a floor price
And a ceiling.
of nothing less than $1.2 billion. Because that was the valuation of the company. And this was a time when central bank itself, I'm sorry to be long here, but it's important that the Gambians know
we clear these things.
Central bank itself was having audit issues. And the IMF told them that you have audit issues. We cannot continue like this. You get to get your audit together. So central bank had to dump the local auditor and went to get an audit firm from, I believe, Ghana. I think it's KPMG or something, like one of these international audit firms. They got an audit firm which came in to work with them. And that audit firm, yes, was from Ghana. When they audit the central bank, they send their accounts to the same company in South Africa, which double checks, just checks it again for a second time. From there, it goes to Nigeria, another layer of checking. So the central bank had moved to a very professional level of auditing and checking. That was being done. So when those people assess a bank for you, you know that they're not playing games. They're doing the right thing. So this bank was assessed, and it was put at minimum $1.2 billion. That should be the floor price when you're bidding. You cannot offer less than that. I remember the time there was a Senegalese company that was sent in, believed to have been from Macky Sall's people. They came and they tried to scam and to buy the bank. They were thrown out. So all of those things took place. And Mega Bank kept improving. So you had that huge fixed asset base of those landed properties. You had the customer base. You had everything that was working for Mega Bank. And then you come around 9 years afterwards, after putting 900 million there, you come out 9 years afterwards and you sell it for the same 900 million that you invested in it. And you tell me you made a profit. How do you make a profit? $900 million in 2014 is not $900 million in 2023. The dollar has depreciated considerably, fell from about 50, not even 50, at the time of the, when they bought their bank, it was about $45 to the dollar. And in 2023, it was about $66, $67 to the dollar.
To the dollar.
So you had lost more than 50% of the value of the dollar. So what, after the dollar, sorry, I mean, so your investment, if you maintain it in dollars, you've lost at least 50% of the value of your investment.
Value of the investment.
So 900 million in 2014 would be worth at least $1.4 billion in 2023 because of the mechanical effect of the depreciation of the dollar. So if you were to sell it, the same, if you had $900 million equivalent in 2014 in dollars, and you sell it in 2023, you will get at least $1.4 billion. So the 1.2 ceiling is even a good price for whoever is buying it. But that was the starting point, and companies would have bid for it, and eventually you get a higher amount. You could go to 2.5. That bank was worth at least $2.5 billion, and I maintain that. So they sold it at a loss for the Gambian taxpayer. So whoever bought that bank has walked away with a huge capital gains on that asset. So you cannot tell me, no, we sold it, we're not making profit, we start to make it work. Yes, you make it work, but you make money from it. You are a bank. So don't give us that. Okay? So this is what happened in Mega Bank. And now that Mega Bank has been sold off, and the minister could sit and stare us in the face and tell us, oh, I don't know who bought it, it's called KM Holdings, etc. Your job is to verify who is buying that bank. And what do they throw in our face now? Oh, we bought it, we did all the right things, and the contract was negotiated and done by, I think you said either Drame, law firm, etc. Good. That's a law firm. That law firm writes the sales contract for you. The law firm does not do your due diligence. You have your financial intelligence unit. You have other structures. You do your due diligence. You cannot hand that over to a law firm. Then that is not their job. So don't try to make it as if the law firm did the contract and due diligence. So no, the law firm will not do your due diligence for you unless you pay them extra for that, and they would outsource it. The law firm does your sales contract for you. They will do some basic checking, to say that there are no encumbrances on the bank. They will do that. But the due diligence, they won't do that for you. That's not their job. So don't try to blame them for anything.
And in some cases, if you can't do it, the Federal Reserve will help you do it.
They will happily help you to do that, which is why the former management did it through the Federal Reserve. So you want to pay for us, pay it into our Federal Reserve account. When you do that, you increase our reserves in dollars. The central bank's reserves in dollars will increase. You pay it into that reserve bank, Federal Reserve Bank, and the due diligence will be done. So these are the things that happened. And I was really disappointed when I heard the governor saying the things he said, because, come on, this is a technician. Stay a technical guy. Please don't come down to the level of these political hacks who are trying to sell us just whatever they like. But the Gambians were too smart for that. We see through it, and we know these things, at least as much as you. So don't try to sell us stories, because we have to come out and debunk you. We don't want to do these things. But the truth has to be told. So this is where we are with Mega Bank. So today, whoever bought Mega Bank has made a mega deal.
Yep.
He has worked out.
Mega profit.
Mega profit. And it's working. That guy must be laughing all the way to his or her bank. But again, as I said, just at that time, when you thought you sold that bank, and at the same time, almost simultaneously, give out $1 billion from that same bank that had issues of solvency because of bad loans, you give out $1 billion to two customers Just 2. The exposure rate there is far too high for anybody really wanting to save that bank. How did that happen? How did the management and board of the bank right now allow that sort of thing to go ahead? This is what happens, and then the companies go bust because there is bad management. You cannot give that kind of loans to 2 people and increase the exposure so much. A bank is sold for $900 million. And immediately after that, it gives a loan of $1 billion to 2 customers. What are you thinking? What are you thinking? This is how we run all our companies into the ground. And when they fail, we bail them out with taxpayer money. So the Gambian population is constantly paying out for the poor management and the corruption that takes place in these institutions. Yep. We hear about Social Security, and for a long time they were in difficulty. Manjan had to come and turn it around. GNPC was in difficulty. They had to bring in people from us who turn it around. And anytime you turn it around, they throw you out or bring in new people. The same thing has been happening all across the state-owned enterprises. Why is Gamtel failing? Why are Gamtel and Gamcell failing when QCell and AfriCell are making huge profits? Why? It's just a simple question of poor management and overstaffing with political cronies. If you take that away, all of those institutions will work. The Gambia Ground Council has been sold off. This can make huge profits for the country. Gambia International Airways is being killed off for Nero, a private company. The ferry services are going to Megma, a Turkish company. You see them make huge profits, and they tell you, 95% of the profit has gone into management and staffing costs. What kind of management is that? You're supposed to have a management that does not consume more than 30-35% of your profits. If your management is taking more than 35% of your profits, you are a badly managed company. So 95-99%, you should fire that management and hold them to account and let them explain why that's happening. But if you go to NAWEC, every year, at least $200 million is disappearing from NAWEC. Why is that not being audited? Not audited, audits have been done. Why is it not being prosecuted? Why did the port give last year $4 billion in tax breaks to importers who certainly are close to the seat of power? Why? Why is the Gambian population losing that?
And mind you that 4 billion port waivers is in addition to $100 million that they dished out to private sector
operators. Yeah.
I think the mega bank issue is very well explained. Now, let's ask just a few questions. They say it was bought by KM Holdings. Who is KM Holdings? Who owns KM Holdings?
Exactly.
And more importantly, why did you sell it at $900 million when it could have been sold for
at least 2.5?
2.5.
Minimum.
2.5 billion Gambian dollars.
Yes.
This includes the assets of the bank.
And those are the questions I asked the Minister of Finance to answer.
Yeah.
He scattered around them. He didn't answer them. The governor didn't answer them either. They can't answer them.
We'll ask the same questions. In addition to these questions, we want them to produce the contracts.
We're going to hold their feet to the fire because this is our money, the Gambians, right? So you don't just take our money and do with what you want. You have to be able to account for it. We have to put an end to impunity and murky management of our companies. All of these companies were set up as state-owned enterprises to make money for the country and pay dividends to central government. And those dividends are supposed to be used to finance our development. If all of the 14 state-owned enterprises were paying dividends to the Gambia government, we would cover our entire budget. We wouldn't need to borrow any money to finance the budget. And the surplus can be used to invest in other things. And that surplus, we can use as seed money to start other investments. If we take that seed money from the surplus from those institutions, we can attract additional funding from the development partners to start more activities, economic activities. But all of those companies are going bust because the people managing them are letting them go bust, and then the Gambians have to bear the brunt of that.
For me, Lamin, what is frightening about the way they are privatizing all these state assets is the fact that the international economic structure is being put under severe stress by decisions being made out of Washington and elsewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, if these state-owned enterprises are managed properly, we can create a bunch of resilient structures,
institutions, yes,
that would actually, how do you call it, that would actually shield our economy from these external shocks that we are experiencing. So Megabank, we want to know who is KM Holdings, who owns KM Holdings, where is KM Holdings, how much did you, well, we know it's
what is the shareholding of KM Holdings,
million, but who are the shareholders of KM Holdings, and bring out the contract.
Yeah, and you see, some of these things, I hope that people like Peter Gomez, who have a good audience as well, who have been inviting these people, I hope that Peter will invite people from the central bank and from the Ministry of Finance. The current people will not talk because their jobs are on the line. So they won't talk. Anybody in the Ministry of Finance today or anybody in the central bank, they won't talk to you because their jobs are on the line. But bring in former people who were in the Ministry of Finance when these things were happening. Bring in former people who were in the central bank when these things were happening. They probably give you a different story from what is being told by the Minister of Finance and by the governor. And I bet what they will say will align with what I'm saying to you.
Yeah.
Bring them on board. Peter, if you are listening, invite people from the former operatives of the Ministry of Finance or other people from the central bank. Let them come in and talk to you. You will find a different story from what the minister and the governor have been telling you. Believe me, you will. Good. And their story will align with what I said.
I think we've exhausted Megabank. Now let's briefly talk about the 75 million.
Yes.
$75 million currency swap. It never rains in the Gambia. It just pours.
Just pours.
Yeah.
It just pours. We go from one disaster to another. When we raised this issue, I thought they would come and say, oh, no, what Lamin said is not true, is blah, blah. But they cannot deny it. Even the percentages I gave, they had to confirm them, reluctantly.
Yeah.
But they confirmed them. Look, NRA cannot borrow on the capital markets, cannot borrow internationally, because NRA is not entitled to borrow. If NRA wants to borrow, the Gambian government will have to guarantee that loan.
Yeah.
And the Gambian government cannot borrow $75 million right now because of the extended credit facility program they are running with the IMF.
With the IMF.
So they cannot borrow. So what do? They go through the capital markets to try to borrow through the capital markets. For what? They say for road construction, right?
Yeah, 2,000 kilometers that they didn't identify.
That's just a spin.
Yeah.
You're going to build roads, and you want to take a $75 million loan to build roads. And these are not toll roads. If they are toll roads, they could at least generate some money and pay back the loan. But what they are telling us, what the minister said and what the governor said, is that that loan is going to be backed by fuel levy raised on all of us Gambians who buy fuel. It's going to be raised on that fuel levy and to pay to NRA. So, as he said, they're going to ring-fence.
Already being paid to the NRA.
Yeah, and they're going to ring-fence future revenue streams. So again, just like we saw with the Senegambia Bridge, they are mortgaging future revenue streams. Even before NRA collects that money, they tell you, oh, NRA is going to collect so much, so we're going to ring fence that amount, and we're going to use that to pay back this loan. That should have been authorized by Parliament to start with.
Yeah.
Parliament allocates resources, not the Ministry of Finance or the Central Bank. They want to do a ring fencing, they are ring fencing national resources. Parliament should authorize that. Parliament is the only authority to determine how our resources are used. 1. 2, you are mortgaging future revenue streams even before they come. This is what we had in Congo at the time.
Yep.
When they mortgaged their oil resources, even before they produced them, the country got into serious economic difficulties. These are the sort of things that we do, and we create difficulties for those institutions. And if you cannot meet demand amounts, you have to raise taxes and do other things. The fuel levy that goes to NRA will very soon increase. Because what we're paying now, if it's going to use to pay off that loan, they will not be able to pay it off, and they will have to increase the fuel levy, and we will have to pay more money at the pump, and every fare is going to go up because somebody made a bad decision.
Yeah.
$75 million, as I said. If you take that from a Flexing bank in a currency swap, this is how it works. I try to make these things easy for every Gambian to understand and not try to bamboozle them with technical terms as they do. So for the ordinary Gambian, this is how the currency swap works. A Flexing bank is going to bring $75 million and tell the central bank, here, I'm going to invest this in your economy, so you will give me the equivalent in dollars. And I will take that equivalent in dollars and buy bonds from NRA bonds. Okay? So, $75 million, off the top of my head, I think will be somewhere between $4 and $5 billion. You'll give them that, and they will take that and buy bonds. And that $75 million equivalent in dollars is going to be remunerated. Well, sorry, I'll try to avoid using technical terms. The tax we're going to pay on that is going to be 17% roughly. I said 15 to 17%. That's what I said on coffee time. I said it's going to be between 15 and 17%. The minister came out and they said it's going to be 17%.
Yeah.
Again, what I told you is what is the truth. They try to die, but they have to admit it. We are from the international financial community. We know these things. You cannot just tell us stories. That $75 million is equivalent in dollars. We're going to pay a Flexing bank 17% interest on that.
Per annum.
Per annum. And they are going to give us the $75 million, and we're going to take the $75 million and go reinvest it again with a Flexing bank. So we give it back to a Flexing bank in a Flexing bank facility. And how much do they pay us for that investment? 5%. So we pay them 17%, and they pay us 5%. How is that fair? How is that sensible economic management?
Actually, on coffee time, I said, this is a perfect deal for the bank, not for the country.
Yeah, yeah. And they try to spin that. You cannot spin this. But another crazy part of it is that we are contracting a 17% loan, 17% interest loan to build a road which has become a liability because it's not going to produce any income. If you want to build infrastructure such as roads, hospitals, airports, ports, etc., these are heavy investments, but particularly roads which do not accrue any resources immediately is indirect. Roads create revenue indirectly, and it's a very slow process. So when you build roads, you go for what we call concessionary loans. These are loans that give you very little interest or no interest. If you go to the African Development Bank, for example, and you take a $75 million loan to build a road, at least 40% of that amount will be given to you as a grant.
As a grant, yeah.
That is the grant component. So 75% of that amount you won't even have to pay back. You'll pay back only the 60% at a very low interest rate because it's a concessionary loan. Okay? That is what you did, and that loan you pay over a period of 20 to 40 years. And you have a 5-year grace period during which you don't pay, because you know the investment is starting, so they give you 5 years in which you don't pay. And then after the 5 years, you pay over another 20 to 25 years. That makes more economic sense. You invest that amount at a low interest rate for a longer period of time with a 5-year grace period. You can make sensible returns on that.
At a lower interest rate.
Exactly. So instead of taking a 2-3% interest rate from the African Development Bank, World Bank, etc., you go take a 17% interest from a Afrexim Bank over a short period of 5 years, because it's going to be over 5 years. So by the time this loan matures, we will be paying anywhere from $30 to $40 million interest. More on the 75 million. Over a 5-year period, we're going to pay $30 to $40 million extra in interest. How does that make economic sense to anybody? How does that make economic sense? If they pay it over the 5-year period, as I said on Coffee Time, if they pay it yearly, they pay the interest yearly and part of the capital, by the time they finish paying over the 5-year period, it's going to cost us about $20, $25 million. Still it's a lot of money, but that will be better than the $30 to $40 million. But to do that, it will be huge payments every year from the budget. And their budget will not be able to sustain that. They cannot pay for that. Already this year we're paying $11 billion in debt service. So they cannot add more to that. So by the time they're going to defer it all to the end, to pay at the end of the 5-year period, and we're paying anywhere from $30 to $40 million excess in terms of interest.
And as we have seen in other countries, a successor government is likely to default because of these bad economic decisions.
And in fact, that's not the only one. Yeah. There are a lot of loans which are being taken by this government. And they know that they don't have to pay it off now, so they're deferring all of that to the next government. So in 2026, the government that wins elections, which I believe is going to be UDP, which comes into power, will find a huge debt stock to pay, that these people have transferred for us to pay at that point. Just like Macky Sall did with Senegal. He left them a debt stock of 5 trillion CFA. It's about 7 billion. Was not stock. The hidden debt. The debt itself is 18 trillion CFA, of which 5 trillion was hidden debt.
5 trillion or $7 billion.
$7 billion, exactly. And in the Gambia, we're going to find the same thing. We're going to find a lot of hidden debts that they are not telling us, which you have to pay. Plus the debt stock is going to be so that any government that comes in will find a very difficult economic situation to manage. You know, when Jammeh left, they said the central bank was empty because the coffers were empty. When we come to power in 26, not only will central bank be empty, but even the bottom of the coffers will be gone.
Yeah. Well,
so the Gambians, this is what we've got to realize. We've got a government that is destroying our country, and they are spinning it in our face unashamedly. We have to do something about this. We have to salvage our country. I don't have any pleasure sitting here and saying these things, but they need to be said so that the Gambians will know what is staring us in the face, so that we know what is coming. Senegal ended up doing what? They sold every property. Macky sold everything. Macky was selling even hospitals, Supreme Court, even cemeteries were being sold. And that's the way we're going in this country here. They're selling off every asset we have. When they finish selling that, they will start selling our lands.
In fact, I keep saying, at the rate they are going, per capita-wise, our hidden debt and all these shady deals
will be worse than Senegal.
Will be worse than what we have in Senegal. Absolutely. But to close the 75 million currency swap, there is an element of it that Gambians should know about. And that element is that 75 million will be managed by a local bank. And that local bank will also have to collect something from that 75 million as part of its administrative service costs. I just thought I should throw that in
That's
there.
extremely important, yes, because it's going to add to that.
And that bank...
and you know, even those local banks, as you said, they collect those fees, and that's going to add to the cost.
Yeah.
But these local banks create money. And when they do money creation, they're making huge profits out of it. Is the central bank really looking at that and making, getting their fair share of that money creation? We'll find out in 26.
Yeah, okay. Let's deal with the third item, which is the 3 million payment. I think that one, the UDP statement is quite clear.
It's very well done.
About
quite
it.
clear.
What we need to do is to just highlight some aspects of it.
Yes.
In terms of accountability, transparency, and all of that.
Absolutely. You see, because the Gambia government does not owe Adama Barrow anything for the medical treatment of his mother. We respect his mother like all our mothers. We cherish our mothers, particularly when they are aging. We cherish them. And his mother, like any other mother in the country, is entitled to health care. But health care here, in the Gambia, develop our health sector, put money in our health sector, and develop it so we don't have to take your mother outside for treatment. How many Gambians can afford to take their sick mothers outside for treatment? They go to the hospital, most of them cannot even pay the $100 a consultation fee, let alone the medication. Why don't you make it easy for everybody by investing money in the health sector and making the health sector work for all Gambians? Your mother is entitled to treatment, and bless her soul, may she recover from whatever ailment she's going through. That's the least we wish for her. We wish her speedy recovery in whatever she is dealing with in terms of health. But that should be done here in the country. If you decide to take her outside the country, that is your responsibility. You have to pay for that. When I take a relative to the local private clinics, I pay for them from my pocket.
Yep. We all do.
And we all do. When you take them to public hospitals, you pay for them from your pocket. In his case, in the president's case, we give him $500,000 every month. $500,000 for God's sake.
As a take-home pay.
And he doesn't pay a bootlet in tax. And we give him everything on top of that. Food, clothing, housing, just name it. Anything that he needs, anything. We, the taxpayers, pay for it. And we pick up the bills for his spouses and children. That's a lot already. We give you $500,000 every month. We pick up the bills for your entire family, your first family, the two spouses and their children. The Gambia is generous to you. So don't abuse that by adding your mom's medical bills to that. Your mom doesn't deserve this kind of exposure. She deserves a peace and quiet and discreet medical treatment. That's what she deserves. She doesn't deserve you putting this on out there. But if you do, it has to be talked about. $3.6 million for the per diem payment of the soldiers or security officers who accompany your mother. What about the medical bills? What about the accommodation in Senegal? What about the times we heard she went to Turkey? Who pays for all of that? The Gambians. Right? Do we pay for all of those things? Or is this just a one-off thing? But I don't think it's one-off. It's probably a trend.
Yeah.
So $3.6 million. You can afford that. You told us you have $200 million in your account in 2021. That's what you told us. If you have $200 million in your account in 2021, surely now you have at least $500 million, right? So you should be able to pay for $3 million for the treatment of your mother. You don't need us to pay for that.
With 200 million to 500 million. 3 million is a drop in the bucket. So.
No, we don't need to pay for that for him. He can pay for that.
Yeah.
So these are the sort of things we're talking about. We have to have transparency in the management of our resources in this country. And even worse, he doesn't even pay for that from the presidential budget, which is almost $1 billion this year. $1 billion, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He doesn't even pay for that from that. But he goes to the Ministry of Finance to pay for that in addition. So that's another allocation to the to the State House. On top of the $1 billion he received this year, it was 900 and something, it's virtually $1 billion. And on top of that, if the budget support comes in, he gets additional money for that.
Yeah.
So if the budget support comes in, he's going to get about $1.3, $1.4 billion at State House. We'll check the budget, it's there. So on top of all of that, you have to go get another $3 million from Ministry of Finance. And the Minister of Presidential Affairs says, oh, no, it's not 3.6, it's 1.4. So why do you ask for 3.6? Is that the same overpricing that we see everywhere? Where is the balance of $2.2 million is going? If you're paying the security guys, you said 1.4. That's what the minister told us yesterday. Then why did you ask for 3.6? Where is the $2.2 million is going? Come on, guys.
Actually, I find that very interesting when I had it over coffee time. No, it's not 3.6 million, it's 1.4 million.
Yeah.
I want to contextualize that because they're still trying to justify why this is being spent. The question is, where is this 3.6 million coming from?
Ministry of Finance?
Is it coming from the Ministry of Finance as a supplementary, or is it part of that 60 million that they have allocated for overseas treatment?
Good question.
For government civil servants.
Yes.
That hasn't been clarified.
Yeah.
Secondly, in our time in the civil service, when you write a letter like this, you itemize the expenditures.
Exactly.
Per diem, for security, first lady, second lady.
Yeah.
You put the amount and the account to be drawn against.
Exactly.
And the rest.
Exactly.
This letter is a very confusing letter.
Yeah.
And State House coming in to say, no, but it's not 3, it's 4, even adds even more suspicion and unclarity to this. I will close by saying, excuse me, go ahead.
Sorry. Okay, I just wanted to say before we close on that, because in addition to that, what the minister is telling us, I'm going to find out whoever did this. If I find him, he won't spend 1 minute in this ministry or in this president's office or whatever. No, that's wrong. This person pointed out wrongdoing. You should protect that person. And he says, we're going to fire him for gross misconduct. Are you serious?
Yeah, well,
this person is pointing out misuse and mismanagement of our Gambian resources. You should protect him under the whistleblower program. 1. 2, under the Access to Information Act, he is entitled to get this out. So you should rather be looking at who is mismanaging our resources and you fire that one, not the one who is telling us somebody is misappropriating our resources.
And as always, they always blame UDP for this. So they are investigating. We'll see how the investigation. But I wanted to close by going back to last week. A gentleman who was a permanent secretary at the Ministry of Finance during the ERP times wrote 3 anecdotal examples of how Jawara managed himself. One of them was the electricity bill at State House. Apparently, no provision was made in the budget to pay for it. When the bill came, Jawara wrote a check.
Exactly.
And said, go and pay.
That was Mahmoud Jain,
yes,
who was permanent secretary, Ministry of Finance, who was giving this anecdote.
Yes, I didn't want to name him because I don't know whether
it's important to name him because he's important. He's saying the right things and bringing out the difference.
But for me, the most important aspect of it is Jawara saying, I'll pay. And the minister then, Sheriff Sise said no. government will pay, and government paid. He gave 2 other examples of going on Meet the People's store. Somebody wanted to speak. They say, no, he shouldn't speak. Jawara says, no, let him speak. I have witnessed that in our Nyamina areas at some time. And then he went to Same, and the people of Same says, get out of here. We are not going to vote for you. He says, throw your votes in the sea. I'm gone. Now, if you do those things today, there are going to be court jesters who are going to be on your case for insulting you and saying all sorts of things. I want to also add a personal note to this. Back in the 80s, around the same time, this was in the middle, 82 or 83, a managing director of ports was written to by the SG then to say the walls on State House are too low. We want ports to give us money to increase the height of the walls to secure the president more. And the guy actually used ports money to re-wall. And when the auditors came, they saw no authorization for him to do that from the port's budget. And they surcharged him and gave him a timeline for when that is to be paid. And he paid for it.
Exactly. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Then Mahmoud's third case was the government wanting to buy a bulletproof car for Jawara for 18 I think million pounds at the time. And
I saw them, I can't remember the amount, but I saw the amount.
18 million at the time. And Jawara basically says, no, don't waste your time. I am protected when I'm in the car, but they can shoot me when I get out of the car.
Exactly. Rationality.
The point I wanted to make is, where is the moral compass of this country? Because that's what leaders are supposed to do.
And in fact, that's extremely important. And I will just add my own personal note to that too. Because whilst, those people are surcharging somebody for increasing the height of the State House walls, the managing director of ports went to build a police station in Mankamangkunda from port money.
Port's money.
But when I was a kid, going to Gambia High School, after school we used to stand by Gambia High School trying to get lifts to come back home. I fondly remember Sarah Dawda used to drive by in GA1. I remember that car.
Yes, GA1.
A convertible with no top, the top down. And he was driving alone in GA1 coming towards Combo.
Yeah.
But now when the president travels, it's a whole army that travels with him.
Yeah.
You just imagine the cost of that.
Yeah.
We saw recently another one, Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso. He went to the Eid prayers with his family, and they just walked in.
Had his own prayer mat.
Yeah, he had his prayer mat, and he just went and sat at the back and prayed with people and went away. No protocol, no fanfare, no, nothing. Yeah.
And he went to the back lines.
Exactly.
He didn't go.
But now here, when the president travels, an army that travels with him, and a hospital.
Yeah.
Why do you waste money like that?
Yeah. Okay, we'll go to the fourth item, which is the 100 million payment to private sector individuals. We have to say, I think Watson Gambia had something like this.
They're doing a great job.
About a month ago. These guys are very vigilant.
Yeah, they're doing a great job.
They're exposing a lot of the corruption that is going on.
I doff my hat to them.
We should congratulate them.
Yeah.
And recognize the contributions they are making in ensuring a transparent, accountable government. But what I wanted to bring back is the governor, I think, said this was not the case, that they have not disbursed this money to any of these private sector entities. But I recall very clearly during that COVID period, the same governor was saying, you guys should be thankful that we made this kind of decision on your behalf. But today, it hasn't happened. I'm going to go with what's on Gambia and the rest of the country to say it has happened. And I'm saying it has happened because the Minister of Trade went to the floor of Parliament. When you go to the floor of Parliament as a state minister, you swore to take and defend the Constitution and tell the truth and nothing but the truth. So the Minister of Trade cannot go to the floor of Parliament and say, yes, 100 million was paid from our strategic foreign exchange reserves. He was very clear, from our strategic foreign exchange reserves to certain businessmen to order commodities and other services for the government. Now, the trade minister is denying it, the governor is denying it. They keep denying and denying and denying. Now, I want to refresh our viewers' memories on who these companies were according to the write-up of Watson Gambia. Now, the first company is JV General Trading. The amounts given to them was not disclosed. Just that JV Trading was given money to buy rice, sugar, cooking oil at the time. The second one is Futa Enterprises. Futa Enterprises was also given money to buy rice, sugar, cooking oil. The third company, Jar Oil, to buy petroleum products, in addition to the 50 million. Remember, government gave them 50 million before.
From Badea.
From Badea.
Yeah. Dollars.
Here they are, again, giving some money to other petroleum products for the country. The fourth one is Kepa Track Group Limited. Kepa Track Group Limited.
Never heard of them.
Yes, Kepa Track Group Limited for rice, sugar, flour, and cooking oil. The fifth one is G Farms for poultry and livestock feed. For poultry and livestock feed. The sixth one is Global Properties, which is a real estate company. Now, they gave Global Properties money to import rice.
Oh.
Yeah.
How beautiful.
It's
real estate to rice.
Real estate to importing rice.
Beautiful.
The sixth one is Unique Group. Unique Group to import rice. The seventh one is Concise 360 Company. Concise 360 Company to import sugar. The eighth company is LBJ and Sons Company to import sugar. The ninth company is Quantum Net for purchasing 30 new buses. Quantum Net to purchase 30 new buses. The 10th company is called Orange Energy Gambia for petroleum products. Now, the question then becomes, who is JV General? Who is Futa Trading? We know Jar Oil. Who is Kepa Track Group? Who is Global Properties? We know. Who is Unique Group? Who is Concise 360? Who is LBJ and Sons? Quantum Net, we already know. Orange Energy Gambia, we need to know who these companies belong to. Now, the point I'm driving home is that the way this government spends money and the way they unilaterally sit in a corner and apportion who gets what.
That unilateral is very important. Unilaterally.
Yes, unilaterally,
yes.
Because they don't go through the due process procedures to do these things. I am going to say these are unacceptable misuse of public funds. This is in the UDP statement.
Yeah.
Unacceptable misuse of public funds, and the government's unrepentant manipulation of information to confuse, to misinform, to deflect, and to attack. They are unrepentant about these things. They just deny, deflect, attack. Now, again, my question, where is our moral compass in this country? Gambians need to think through this business of the morality of some of the things that we do. and the morality of some of the things our government functionaries and operatives do and say. Now, if you recall my second appearance on Coffee Time, I think it was in 2022, I said this government is a transactional government. Mm-hmm. And everything that has happened since then is transactional. But they try to, when we bring these things out, first of all, we are the enemy because we are bringing these things out so the public can know and be informed. But when we do that, they come out, they try to justify the unjustifiable, they try to defend the indefensible, they try to rationalize the irrational. Yeah. And this is what we are seeing even on this 3.6 million thing. For the minister to come, no, it's not 3.6, it's 4, it's just deflecting and rationalizing and defending that which is not defendable. On the unacceptable misuse of public funds, I think Gambians need to wake up to the fact that the issue of us talking about the budget, how the budget is crafted, how it is approved, points to one direction. And that direction is we do not have a government that has budget discipline. If the budget discipline is there, all the environments you are seeing in the audit reports will not be there. Yeah, if due process is followed, all the procurement issues that the country is facing will not be there. So Gambia, let's wake up to the fact that there is a need for systemic change. Mm-hmm. And when we say systemic change, basically we are saying the system is entrenched, corruption is entrenched, and the value system that this country is well known for is lost in the process. So in order to bring back that kind of transparency, accountability, honesty in the way we do business, there has to be systemic change. Yeah. Now it's up to the Gambians to have that systemic change.
Absolutely. And you know, because the point you just said, we just want to go back to that a bit. Mm. If you look at the per diem payments to security staff accompanying the president's mother, if this government were to do things properly, there are what we call state-to-state courtesies, right?
Exactly.
If the president's mother was going to go to Senegal and they went to the right channels, Senegal will provide security for his mother while she's in Dakar.
As they are obliged to under international law.
They may not even obliged, but they will, because these are the courtesies that we extend to each other on the Geneva Convention. They will do that, the 1969 Geneva Convention. Yeah. They will do that. And we can understand security being provided for his mother here locally. We can understand that.
But abroad?
But abroad, no. Because one thing is, when those people travel to Senegal, they will probably not be allowed to walk into Senegal with their
reports, yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, if you were doing that and you get in touch with the Senegalese embassy here, they will facilitate that for you.
Yeah.
So the president's mother will be met wherever she is going. If he's going overland, they'll meet her at the border. They'll provide security.
Yeah.
Because when they come here too, they're not supposed to come in with weapons from Senegal.
Yeah.
So we'll extend those same courtesies to them.
Yeah.
So if you do that, the normal diplomatic practices is that they will be met at the border. They'll provide them security until they come back.
Yeah.
So you don't have to pay for that money to put the per diem. You don't have to put themselves through this embarrassment. Because I'm sure this is very embarrassing for the president, to know that, he was trying to pay for his mother's medical bills and the rest through the Gambia government. That is an embarrassment. He could have spared himself that.
Yeah. Let me, that signaling that time is up. Let me add one thing to that, and that is the president's statement in a public meeting. Mm-hmm. That our healthcare system is so good that other people are coming into our country for healthcare.
Yeah.
Now, my question again is, it's a question that will not be answered. If our healthcare system is that good, why would the president pay this amount of money, whatever amount it is, to take somebody out for medical treatment?
Good question.
Like you say, we all have mothers, and those of us who have mothers that are living, we cherish them, we honor them, we respect them. In that frame, we wish the president's mother Godspeed and speedy recovery and full recovery. Mm-hmm. This must be difficult for her because this is a private thing.
She didn't deserve,
and she didn't deserve it to be splashed on social media the way it is. But she has her son to blame for that.
Absolutely.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for your time, for listening to us, for viewing us, and as always, we would like to thank the young, dynamic team at Eco TV.
Absolutely.
We keep finding them drinking coffee and tea.
Ramadan is over.
We are never invited for those things, but this is a fantastic team. Thank you.
Fantastic team. And just to go along the same lines as you there, when we come here, we would rather discuss other issues than to go after these officials and to debunk what they say. This is unpleasant to us too. But somebody has to do this. When the government stops spinning falsehoods, we can move to other things. We want to talk about our development agenda. What are we going to do for this country when we get to power? How are we going to change the system around? How are we going to have the systemic changes that are necessary? How are we going to use the resources of the country and prioritize our expenditure? These are the sort of things we want to talk about. So let them please stop spinning falsehoods so we don't have to reply to them, we don't have to debunk what they say, and we can all discuss our development agendas and put it to the Gambian people. But the Gambian people have to realize that the change is in their hands. You have seen what has been going wrong in this government for the past years. There is a litany of woes of what's happening here. We have to realize that we are hurting ourselves by not changing this government earlier than we should. We should put an end to this, and the only way to do that is to get these people out. It's a couple of hundreds of people living at our expense, whilst the rest of the Gambia is getting into more and more abject poverty. That can and must stop. And the Gambian electorate are the ones to stop that. Let them not use our tribes, our religion, our regions, etc., to divide us so that we forget them. So once we are fighting amongst ourselves, they are robbing us blind. So let's not allow them to turn us on each other so that whilst we fight, they can rob us. So, okay, I heard you, but what are you doing for our development? That's what we should be focusing on. Forget tribe, forget religion, forget region, forget whatever. Let's look at what is in the best interest of the Gambia and the Gambians and hold their feet to the fire for that. Let them do it. Because they're not doing anything for us. It's our money that we pool and give to them and say, use this to develop the country. When they say, oh, we've built you a road. No, you haven't built us a road. We built the road with our money. You misappropriated part of that money to take to do other things. They're not doing us a favor. We are doing them a favor by paying the ministers $200,000 a month, by paying the president $500,000 a month, with everything that comes with it. So, to wrap up, that is where we need to. Let's focus on the Gambia and the Gambians, and we are home and dry. Thank you.
Thank you.